If there was ever any question about who the strongest Avenger is, let me just say that at this point there really shouldn't be. Wanda Maximoff is the strongest. First off, if you haven't seen our video on this topic where we break things down a bit more specifically post-Endgame, check it out by clicking the card on the screen now. However, within the latest episode of Wandavision, we saw one of the most insane feats of power in the MCU. Now, if you haven't seen the latest episode of Wandavision, then stop here, watch it, and come back. Don't type in the comments about spoilers, or I will literally use hex magic to evaporate you from my own personal timeline. Wandavision this week was full of clues as to what Wanda's true abilities within the MCU might be. During this week's episode, we learned a decent amount about the limits to Wanda's powers within the MCU. Or I guess it would probably be easier to say lack of limits within the MCU. Throughout the episode, we learn that Wanda is capable of controlling, maintaining, and influencing thousands of people at a single point in time. And while this ability in itself is impressive, there's one new ability that we see at the end of the episode that might have far greater implications than the average viewer might realize. Everything from this point on is a massive spoiler, so don't say you weren't warned. During the episode, Wanda and Vision's children Billy and Tommy find and rescue a dog. The dog, named Sparky, is an Easter egg referring to an android dog that Vision builds from a neighbor's dead dog in Tom King's Vision run. However, in this universe, the dog is very real and very alive, until it's not. The dog dies after eating some poisonous azalea bush leaves. The entire inclusion of the dog was a metaphor designed to prepare the viewer and the people of Westview for the arrival of Wanda's most insane feat yet, a feat that is heavily foreshadowed throughout the entire episode. When Wanda's children find out that the dog has passed away, they ask their mother to fix reality and bring him back. It's obvious that the children, unlike the other residents of Westview, are aware that their mother has abilities. These abilities, at least in their minds, allow her to bring the dog back to life. However, when confronted with the request, Wanda rejects it. Wanda states that she can't bring back the dead. She specifically states, "We can't reverse death, no matter how sad this makes us." However, when pressed with this request to bring the dog back, Wanda immediately changes the scene to nighttime in their home. It's presumed that the kids are asleep, and Wanda and Vision start having a discussion about the reality that they occupy. At the end of the episode, we see a climactic showdown between Wanda and Vision, where Vision states that he can't remember anything before coming to Westview. This argument and discussion is only stopped when there's a ring at the doorbell. When Wanda opens the door, we see a silver-haired man from the back. Obviously, as the scene begins, you're meant to believe that we're going to be reintroduced to Pietro Maximoff from the MCU, last seen dying in Age of Ultron and being played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. After all, Monica did mention him in the past, and there were certain foreshadowing events in the episode leading us to believe that we may see him again. However, when we see the person at the door, it's actually another familiar version of Quicksilver. This version, played by Evan Peters, is instantly recognizable as the Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe. Darcy, watching the broadcast from the Sword compound outside of Westview, states, "Wanda recasted Pietro." Keep in mind that everybody in Westview is actually someone else from the perspective of the MCU. All of these people have real lives, but they were essentially hijacked by Wanda, and they are now playing a part in the reality that she's made for herself. Okay, now let's all take a break. Let's just relax. We're all going to breathe into this special key issues hyperventilating bag. You don't want to breathe in too deep. You're going to pass out. That's actually way too deep. Let's just move on. This type of reality manipulation is a huge ripple in the MCU pond. It also happens to be the most powerful feat that we've seen from an Avenger within the MCU. Think for 1 second about what we're seeing here. First, I want you to think about where she plucked Pietro from. We all know the Fox X-Men universe and the MC universe are not the same reality. Plucking one Quicksilver from that reality into this reality is a massive feat, right? Right. But it gets even more impressive when you think about when she plucked Pietro from. Not only did Wanda pluck Quicksilver from that reality, she also pulled him out of a separate timeline. All of the films that Evan Peters' Quicksilver appears in take place between the years of 1973 and 1992. Within that universe, Quicksilver is in his mid-30s when we last see him. He obviously appears as the same age within Wandavision, indicating that she was able to grab Pietro from a random point in time and bring him to her timeline in reality. If that wasn't the case, the MCU takes place in the year 2023. If she pulled Pietro Maximoff from 2023 in his universe, he would be 68 years old, seeing as he was born in 1955. He was 18 at the time of his first appearance in X-Men Days of the Future Past, and his final appearance in Dark Phoenix, he's supposed to be in his late 30s, around the age of 37. But again, this is different universes, different realities, and different timelines. I hope that you're starting to understand why I'm so hype about this new ability. Obviously, it's very cool, but it's even more impressive when you think about some of the events that took place in the MCU before this. Not only is Wanda potentially manipulating thousands of people at the same time, she was capable of adding cast members to her new reality by plucking them from another time and space. This is a feat that so far hasn't been attempted outside of a fully powered Infinity Gauntlet. The snap, or the decimation, required all of the Infinity Stones to not only kill everybody, but also to bring everybody back, transport them to where they used to be, put their soul and memories back in their body, everything else. Each stone had its own ability. We can outline that for you in the comments below if you want, but trust us, take our word for it, it's already explained in MCU lore books. Wanda is capable of doing this alone, by herself, independently. Singularly. I don't know how many synonyms you need, but you get the point, right? She did it alone. The implications here for the greater multiverse are even more strange. Sorry for the pun, but it's needed. We know the next two films that are going to play with the idea of the multiverse are Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. We also know that in those films we will see a number of actors from different franchises. Take, for example, Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Charlie Cox, Emma Stone, Kirsten Dunst. All of these actors are confirmed or heavily rumored to appear within Spider-Man 3, so think about it. These characters are all going to be present in some capacity within the greater MCU in Spider-Man 3. How can that be? After all, think about the fate of these characters. Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy, dead. Jamie Foxx's Electro, dead. Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, dead. Kirsten Dunst's career, dead. I'm just kidding, Kirsten, I love you. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? It's possible that by the end of WandaVision, Wanda plucks a massive amount of characters from different comic book universes and timelines and smashes them all into the MCU. Recently, Tom Holland said in an interview that what they're attempting to do in Spider-Man 3 is the most ambitious thing that Marvel has attempted in a standalone film. If WandaVision does indeed lead heavily into the events of Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange, as Kevin Feige has stated, it's obvious that this is a massive element to that. It explains how mutants come into the MCU without being there before and without using some crazy loophole like radiation from the Infinity Gauntlet unlocked mutant genomes in humans. Like, we get it, that's a big theory that's existed for a while, but it's kind of sloppy writing. You probably wouldn't want to integrate a whole species of mutants into the MCU that way, at least not easily. And the same thing kind of happens with characters like the Fantastic Four or Blade that we know are also coming to the MCU. These are characters that already exist in other universes and already have been established in some form or another, you know? Anyway, all of this is going to lead to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where he will need to repair the realities and return people to their own timeline, or some form of that type of a plot. I don't know, we're just kind of spitballing here. We're truly in unknown territory. However, it is clear that the events of WandaVision are the perfect start to Phase 4 of the MCU, at least in my opinion. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that Wanda pulled Pietro out of the Fox X-Men universe reality? Do you think that Wanda's actually the one doing this, or is there some other villain behind the scenes? It's not just Wanda. That seems to be a really popular theory that people still think, including us. Do you think that those young boys will ever get a new dog? I don't know, there's a ton of questions that are going on. What questions do you want answered? Let us know down in the comments. But that is about it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Nick with Key Issues. And if you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe and all that other junk that YouTubers ask you to do. And remember the motto, WandaVision over everything.